In geology classes, we often hear that a rock is an aggregate of minerals. So what are minerals? If you look at these two substances in my hand right now, one of them is a mineral. This is actually something called calcite, and this is marble. And marble is made of lots of little grains of calcite. So why is this a rock? Why is this a mineral? Let's talk about it now. So a mnemonic device that I used in college is no dish, and each letter represents one of the parts of making a mineral a mineral. The N is for naturally occurring. So this just means that it occurs in nature. So if this is something that's created in a lab, that's fine, but it's not a mineral. It has to be something that does occur and is found in nature. The second letter is O, that's for ordered atomic structure. This is another phrase for the word crystalline, which you may hear. This means that the atoms that exist in your given mineral are in very specific spots. And so I like to think about this at the grocery store. You have a stack of soup cans that are very ordered. You know where each one's going to be in that stack, as opposed to just a big messy pile where you wouldn't really be able to predict where the next one was going to be. And this ends up being really important because it controls things like mineral cleavage. If I look at these two minerals, this is halite and this is something called biotite. You'll see the biotite is really flat like a piece of paper, and then the halite, hopefully you can see, is like a cube. And so that very ordered atomic structure is what actually helps create this mineral cleavage. All right, and the D is for definite chemical composition. So this just means that we know what the ingredients of that mineral is going to be pretty consistently. And so if we think about a cake has certain ingredients that are always there: flour, sugar, egg, things like that makes that a cake and not some other kind of dessert like ice cream. Now there can be some variation in that cake. You have chocolate cake, and strawberry, and all sorts of different flavors. And minerals have flavors as well. So quartz, for example, you can have all sorts of different colors of quartz, and it comes with different names like rose quartz, things like that. Also, a mineral called olivine, if you're familiar with that, it has varying amounts of iron and magnesium that changes kind of that composition, like from a chocolate to a vanilla cake. But it's still cake, it's still olivine. We have a very defined amount of those minerals or elements in those minerals. The I is going to be for inorganic. So minerals can contain carbon, like diamond, for example, is actually just solid carbon. So is graphite, if you're familiar with that. But the carbon has to be from inorganic sources, so not from living sources. And now the S is going to be for solid. That's an easy one. It just can't be a liquid or a gas. And then finally, H is kind of the optional one. I learned it in college. I thought it was helpful, but a lot of times I see that it's not in current texts, but it's for homogeneous. And so homogeneous just means, homo means same. And so that just means that there's the same composition, same characteristics all the way throughout that mineral sample. So if you were to move across a sample and things changed, like its chemical composition, its ordered atomic structure, then you don't have the same mineral all the way across. So going back to our calcite and our marble, we see that if I were to look at my calcite, you can see the cleavage, you can see it's actually one mineral crystal that's grown. And so it has all of these things that we just talked about. Our rock here, we'd have to probably get this under a microscope, but what you would see is something like this. You wouldn't see one big crystal, you would see lots of little tiny ones that have kind of grown together to form our marble here. So that's why this would be a rock made of lots of grains of calcite, and this would be a single mineral crystal of calcite.